thanks for coming tonight to Women in Web3 Hong Kong Web3 and AI Career Workshop. And thank you to Animoca Brands for hosting us. So I'm Lucy, I'm one of the co-founders of Women in Web3 Hong Kong, and I'm here today together with my other two co-founders, so Melissa here and Livia over there. So in case you're not familiar with us, Women in Web3 Hong Kong is a non-profit organization dedicated to building a vibrant and inclusive community where women are empowered to lead, innovate, and uplift one another in the fast-evolving Web3 landscape. Our mission is to provide education, foster meaningful connections, and support career and personal growth so that women can excel in their journeys, whichever step of their career they're at. So if you're here tonight, it's likely because you're a woman in Web3, AI, tech, who is exploring what's next in her career. Maybe you're looking for a new opportunity, you're considering a transition, or simply you want to sharpen how you present yourself professionally. But whatever brings you here, you're in the right room. So we've put together an evening of sessions to give you real tools, hiring insights, and the space to reflect on your career with people who understand the journey. So thank you for being here, and let's get started. So first, let's welcome our first speaker, Janet. So Janet is the marketing director at Animoca Brands, and she will introduce Minds by Animoca Brands and how AI agents can support your job search.
Thank you. It's actually my first attendance at the Web3 woman event. Well, even though I've been in this industry for nearly 4 years, so that shows that we need to get more women to be in this room with us, right? So good to know that this group exists, and now I can spread the word. Animoca Minds is actually Animoca's latest product. It's a persistent AI agent. So today I'm going to provide a little bit of details how AI agents can help with your career growth, or whether you're a recruiter or you are looking for new opportunities, how you can use them from more of a Minds perspective. Before I get started, can I assume that everybody here uses AI to an extent? You use Gemini, you use Poe. Do we have very savvy talents here that uses OpenClaw or Hermes? She is very good. I think a lot of times when we look for a new job opportunity, a career growth, we often tell ourselves good luck to your conversation, good luck in this meeting, right? But luck doesn't fall on your laps. It's a lot of preparation meeting with opportunity. You've worked really hard, you've prepared really well for this to work smoothly. And the way I look into AI is how does it help you to get all the resources you can have, so you walk into the meeting with preparation and you don't come out thinking, what if I've done this differently, right? So to start with, Animoca Minds is a persistent AI agent. When you interact with it, it can be on an app, it can be on Telegram, it can be on email. Whatever task you give it, it still runs in the background, even though you exit that chat. If you use Poe or Gemini, you have to type in front of it furiously and it will reply quickly. And once you stop typing, it stops responding, right? Minds actually continues to finish the task despite you're outside of that app. So what that means for a person like me, who is a working mom with kids, I can actually make sure that my task gets executed, and I don't have to be checking and going back in actively. My agent, AI agent, will come back and update me of the status of what I'm looking for. So that's what I like about it. It's very proactive. You can also set its identity and tone of voice. So I'm obviously working in here. I've got the privilege of having unlimited agents. So some of them actually got tuned personality to be very to the point, because I can't read an essay anymore. Some of them got to be very warm and constructive and caring, because they're dealing with my personal life. And with kids screaming in the background, I need somebody, an AI bot who is a little bit more considerate and friendly to me. So you can actually set that tone of voice, how you want it to interact. It will execute a task. It actually has persistent knowledge. So what that means is that if you upload your information or tell them about your information, it remembers. So you don't have to, even though you start a new thread, it will not forget what you've told it previously. So that's very handy for a lot of us, because we don't have to repeatedly set out that perimeter, I am working in this is what I want to do, this is my condition, this is my preference, right? And there's no setup. So while we have a very savvy lady here who can configure our Mac Mini, kudos to you. But personally, this is also more like a plug and play. So you can have it on your laptop or on your mobile, as long as you have internet connection or Telegram connection. And this is one of the templated minds that we have. It looks really cute and bring more personality. It actually, you can see the skills that it's equipped with in here. It's a general assistant mind, so it can listen. It can help you to arrange meeting, conflict schedules, and notify you about it. And it actually has like integrations involved as well. So like we use a Google Suite. So for this mind is equipped with Google Suite. You just need to give you a little bit of an extra authentication, but it's ready to go. So for a lot of people who are starting to understand what is the first AI output, this is a good way to shorten that time and get to the outcome immediately. All right. So we talked a little bit about earlier, like luck is something that you orchestrate and you create on your own. I think a lot of us were in different rooms in our careers that people say like you create your own luck. You get this for yourself, right? The way I look into when Lucy invited us to speak at this event, I was finding it very interesting because I think about job candidates and employers. They pretty much go through the same mirrored journey when they look for a candidate, right? They look at the needs, where's the business going, where's their own career is going, what kind of work style would that work for that organization or for themselves, what's the opportunity they want ahead of them. A lot of times I think you and I are both in these sessions where they say like you need to network, you need to like there's a lot of jobs out there. Or like your conversation start in some small talk, so you have to get that discussion going. And probably like when I was younger, I was like, I really don't know how to get that going because I don't know where they are, I don't know who to talk to, I don't know what happens, right? But thankfully we have a lot of things like LinkedIn and like Luma events that we can identify this. But again, from even my little personal experience, like if you want to create your own luck, you need to identify the companies or the folks that you're looking at, like the talent you want, which events are they going, who are the people I want to talk to. By the time you walk up, you pretty much have a pretty good idea, like what will work, what is the latest news that happened in that company, what would you bring value to that organization quite quickly, right? And a lot of these, actually in short, are a lot of research hard work. You agree? It says a lot of work. It's probably hours of work. And what minds can do, in my opinion, like I'm hiring, so I started using it to look for candidates that fit my profile. So because if I go on LinkedIn, it's actually quite reactive. When I have time to go on LinkedIn or when our team has capacity to notify me, but if I have minds on the background, it will help me to identify what are networking events I should consider, what are like the seniority, what give me industry benchmark on salary and like experience that I probably need to know because I want to make sure I have the right people and I do set the right benchmark against my team as well. So you have something that work in the background for you while you are working on other projects. So when I use my AI agents, I also use Gemini, I also use Claude, just to be very frank, like I do use other tools as well. What I really like with mine, like I hope it doesn't come across salesy, I can use multiple agents. So what does that mean is I can create a specialist for all the different roles or different parts of that search that I'm looking for. So I'll start with like a CV surgery, like we all want to make sure like our profile is updated, we are using the right vocabulary, we're talking to the right people. That's something that a lot of AIs can do. But what I also use these days is I use a learner coach of mine. So it actually like asks you questions about whether what you're looking for in your career or whether you're looking for like different kind of conversations, personal or work related. And it actually guides you how to think about it. And it asks you prompts like, do you want me to draft like a 3 bullet points for you? Do you want me to actually like suggest events you can go to? And time after time, I have used executive coaches before, by the way, but I also struggle to have that time with my coach. I'm not saying that AI will replace people, but I think this gives me a better head start and understanding what I need before I pay for an executive, right? Because I want the money to, like the buck is worth it. So this gives me like really good advice proactively. It gives me like updates every Monday. I need to, before I go into a special meeting with my manager and etc. And then I have a recruiter mind. This is quite interesting, which is available. Both of these are available on our website. It actually could look into candidates for you. It also works like a recruiter. So it looks into companies that are hiring and tells you like what is the salary benchmark they can find. So for anybody who's looking for jobs, I do recommend you get both because you understand, number one, like is your salary bench in a good place, right? You've probably read a lot of these kind of reports, but you always have a doubt whether is my salary in the right range? Do I get a better bench? So you can get that through a recruiter mind. From my perspective, I find it quite interesting because as I'm hiring, I want to make sure that my JD's descriptions are relevant, right? Am I asking too much? Am I asking too little? Is this the right bench? What is the other companies in my field are saying? So this gives me pretty good feedback as well, which I find it quite useful to shape the JDs that I'm creating. And finally, a scout mind. So you can actually ask it to look for events. So what I did over the weekend, just as a test, I was like, oh, let's look into what Jefferies is up to, right? It's like fancy financial institution that pays a lot of money. Let's see what they're doing. And I was like, hey, I want to go and meet with somebody at Jefferies. What should I do? It's like, oh, these events all gone. What should I do next? It's happened in May or in July. And then I was like, hey, what about Leap Yeast, right? Like I was just there last weekend and it came back and said, Jefferies wasn't at Leap Yeast, but Science, which is the research arm, was at Leap Yeast. It had a booth. It was a silver sponsor. And I'm like, great, I missed that too. If I'm a candidate, I'll be screwed, right? Also, what should I do? It's Sunday now. The event finished on Friday. And it actually came back and said, you can still do a follow-up with the person because you're at Leap Yeast. You probably have some good insights you can share. These are the folks who work in M Science who are actually quite prominent on LinkedIn. It's not a direct fit, but you may think about how to get started there. Would you like 3 bullet points to drive your first outreach? And that's why I found it interesting because this mind that is scouting for events are actually guiding me through events and then giving me ideas. And what's the beauty of it is like I can get these 3 minds into one group chat and they can start talking and coming out with solutions for me. If I give them like 5 companies that I'm interested in, let's say in a certain sector, let's say like in the entertainment industry, they know who I want to go for, what kind of roles I'm looking at. One is looking at events, one is looking at how you approach them. You can imagine you have a lot of information that's very useful and handy and proactively at your fingertips. The way I look at AI is to make sure we all have the right level playing field when we meet the right person that we want to approach. And I think that's getting more and more important because everybody has access to information. How to utilize it, how to maximize it, how do you program it will give you more outcomes or better interactions that you want out of it. So yeah, this is the learner coach mind. So I find it very interesting. I put my CV with it. It's like, I want to be in project management, but I'm in marketing. What should I do? So I suggest some classes or like, what should I do if I want to change field? Not that I want to. I was asking it, can we develop a progress tracking chart? Because I want to see if I want to get there in 2 months' time, what are the things I need to learn on a week-to-week basis? And I think that's a really interesting idea to help myself to maximize my presence and my opportunities out there. And then this is the recruiter mind that I talk about. It also helps you to identify like the candidate that you want. It looks into CV, it benchmarks the market and tells you like the salary range and the hiring manager a little bit more about the company and gives you the research that you need. You sort of need that because when you walk into conversations, you want to make sure you have the best card possible so you can negotiate the best for yourself, right? Yeah, so I hope this is interesting and good luck to all of you. Give mine a go. Thank you.
Thank you, Janet, for the presentation. So now we are going to welcome Doris, the founder of Untitled Labs, to the stage. She has recruited for companies including OKX, Kraken, Elliptic, among others. And today she will lead a practical recruitment workshop on navigating the Web3 and AI joint market. Over to you, Doris.
Hello. All right. I'm Doris. Thank you for joining today. And I'd love to thank the Women of Web3 in Hong Kong for inviting me to this career workshop because I think what they're doing is really inspiring. And so today is all about talking about how to make your resume work for Web3. And all of this will be coming from a perspective of someone who's been recruiting in the space for, I'd say, 9 years or so. So I'll tell you a little bit more about me a bit later, but what I want you to walk away with today is something that you can hopefully apply to your career or your job search situation. Before we start, I do want to understand a little bit more about you guys and who's in the room. So can you tell me, hands up, who is currently applying actively for new opportunities? Hands up? Hands up. Okay, so we've got a couple. What about, if you're kind of wanting to explore but you don't know where to start, you don't know how the market is? A couple here too. Okay. Anyone applied and not really hearing from recruiters or hiring managers? No, okay, so people are getting traction. We've got half a hand up somewhere. What about, is anyone interviewing? Is anyone in offer stage? Oh, good. So some of you guys are past one of the hardest processes in job search, which is getting noticed and getting to speaking to a human. So that's really good. But definitely don't drop the ball here. If you're interviewing, that's actually one of also the hardest stages, I would say, because there is an art to interviewing and an art to negotiating your offer. But this talk today, unfortunately, I have limited time, is only about getting you to the interview. If you want to talk to me about interviews and offers, then come grab me after the talk and I can give some more tips then. Okay, last one. Who is happy in their current Web3 role? Well, there we go. We've got one person. That's very good. So we have a lot of people interested in making moves in the space. That's why we're all here today. Like I said, I've spent 9 years in Web3 across recruitment. So I started recruiting for Circle. Started growing the APAC team here in Hong Kong. That was in 2017. And then I moved into the industry. I was in OTC sales for Circle and then Kraken. And then I moved back into agency recruitment. And I was recruiting exclusively for Web3 in the last couple of years. So I recruited for, the likes of, the big names, Binance, OKX, Elliptic. I've recruited for really interesting projects like, really interesting project that I worked on was Virtuals Protocol. So they're a decentralized AI agent platform, which is, if you have the time, look them up because they're making a lot of moves in this space. L2s, L1s, infrastructure like Blocksroute. So I recruited for a big range of different companies in Web3. And I've sat on both sides, right? I've been a recruiter hiring and reading through hundreds of resumes, deciding which candidates should go through to meet my client. And I've also been inside a company like Circle deciding who gets the interview. So next is a lot of people ask me the Web3 job market. A lot of people ask me, the most asked questions I get is, how is the job market right now in Web3? Like, is Web3 dead? Now, the bad news is, I'm not gonna lie, the market is a lot harder and a lot tighter than what it was a year ago compared to, say, when BTC was at all-time high. But, it's not exactly all doom and gloom. It's true, right? That hiring has gone down. It is a lot harder in a lot of verticals like DeFi and gaming. And we've also gotten hit with a lot of layoff news, right? With Block, Mazari. Recently, locally in Hong Kong, we've got Crypto.com, we've got OSL. There's a lot more competition in the market now that there are a lot more talented candidates floating around. And it sounds like a lot of bad news, but if you go onto Web3 job boards, and, I have made it my job to go on Web3 job boards every day, you see that there are still a lot of roles getting posted. And you see that there are sort of verticals, right? Like institutional Web3, on RWAs, stablecoin, payment, compliance, even cybersecurity is also a very growing space and actively hiring right now in Web3. So what's different now is that employers, they have the leverage and they're calling the shots. So the jobs are there, but competition is a lot sharper and hiring managers are being a lot pickier. And I see Janet here nodding her head. So it's true. And it's true because, the companies get their pick on who they want. And there's a lot of candidates out there in the market. And so of course they're going to want the best for their team because they don't have the budget to blow back in 2021 where everyone is bullish. Everyone believes that Bitcoin is going to go to 200K. And they know they've been burnt before. So everyone is being a lot more cautious in how they hire and how they spend their money. So before you want to go outside and touch grass, like I said, the jobs are there. And what you need to do as a candidate is you need to show that you get the space and that you can deliver and not just you're passionate about Web3 because everyone can say that, right? Everyone can say they're passionate about blockchain and crypto. And the hard truth is if your resume looks like everyone else, that means you're invisible. You're not being seen. Now, last thing that I'm going to leave you with about the Web3 context. The bar has changed So it's not about who's applying anymore, it's about who's visible. And the people getting hired right now is not necessarily more qualified than you. So if you don't want to take anything away, take this away, right? They're just easier to say yes to on paper. And that's a solvable problem. So let me show you what I mean. So like I said, we're here to talk about resumes tonight. So let's talk about the top 3 mistakes, resume mistakes that a lot of people make when they're hiring and when they're looking for jobs in Web3. So the first one is when you're leading with details that don't land in the room you want to be in. What that means is if you're trying to break into the space, if you're coming from TradFi or tech, your resume might be full of wins that would be impressive to your manager or people in the same industry. But with a Web3 founder, right, that, when they're reading it without the full context, it won't land as well. Say if you're a dev, you can get really technical, but then if a hiring manager isn't that technical, they're not going to get everything. Or someone who's managed a 10 million book won't really mean anything to someone that doesn't need you to manage a 10 million book. And this also hits people who's already in the space too. So if you've been 3 years deep in DeFi, DeFi has been exploding in the last couple of years, but right now it's not really moving and you want to get into the stablecoin space, where institutional moves a lot quicker and they're looking for institutional proof, but your DeFi wins might not matter to them. So it's the same fix either way. I'm not telling you to cut all of this, right? Because this is your edge. They're your advantages, but you need to know how to translate it. You need to take the win and you need to aim it at the problem that the role is trying to solve. The second part is confusing Web3 activity with proof. So this one is kind of different depending on where you are in your Web3 career. So if you're breaking in, then you're probably, deep in crypto personally, you've been trading, you've been, you hold NFTs, you've been part of communities, you've been going to conferences. That's really good. That's activity, but that's just the start because it's not proof. Now, being in the room isn't the same as showing what you have done there. And if you're already in the space, this is the one that I've watched because a lot of people feel like, being in the space means being involved and you're already there. You don't need to show signal. You don't need to show proof. But everyone does the same thing because you might undersell it by assuming that it's already on paper. It's already said. But if you don't say it, it hasn't happened. So make sure you show what you've actually shipped, what you actually delivered, what you've actually contributed. That's the most important thing because, like I said, if it's not on the page, then it didn't happen. The third bit is if your resume is too long and or too generic. Some people use the exact same resume to send out to every single job application out there. I'd say that's fine if you're really interested in the exact same role. But honestly, what role is the same in every single company? So right now in the space where it's so competitive, you need to focus, you need to target your resume against a role, especially if it's a role that you really, really want. And also, if you're not speaking to the role that you're applying for, you're already behind. So highlighting every single responsibility in every single job that you've done is just going to lose attention, right? Your eyes are going to glass over on the 3rd page already. And I have read 10 pages resumes. So they're out there. They actually exist. So, it's true that recruiters take about 6 to 10 seconds to scroll through a resume to decide whether or not it's actually relevant to what they're hiring for or not. So it is true, and take it with you. And it's not like really 6 seconds next. If it's 6 seconds and I find it interesting, then my eyes will stay longer. I will want to read more. But within those 6 seconds, if I don't find you relevant, if there's nothing there that actually attracts me to want to know you more, next, because I've got 200 other applicants waiting for me. Why should I spend time on you? So you need to definitely show that, you're relevant, and 1 to 2 pages max, every line earning its place. And if a bullet doesn't make people think that this person can do the job that you're applying to, then it's dead weight. So you can cancel and take it out. Now, here's something that I haven't put on my page, but it has really shifted in the last year, and that's AI. So I know Janet said that everyone is using AI, right? Everyone should be using AI because it is helping you get things, write things faster, make things happen, and it helps your output. It's true, right? Running your resume through AI will make it have less errors, spell check for you. That's the most basic. It makes a recruiter's life easier. But also, if everyone is doing it, then every single resume is going to look kind of the same. Where it's going to be polished, it's going to be competent, but also is going to be forgettable. And so when a hiring manager is going to 200 of those, polish doesn't help you. Polish is it's pretty much the baseline. Everyone's got it. So what hiring managers are actually looking for is the thing that AI can't do or can't make up for you. And that's actually what they're looking for, is whether you actually get the problem that they're trying to solve. So by all means, use AI to clean things up. Make a recruiter's life easier. Read your CV easily, read your resume easily. But just know that that gets you to the starting line and not past it. So the part that makes you stand out is still on you. All right, so let's look at this resume for 10 seconds. I know the print is a little bit small, but try and see and read about Rachel. So I'm using a marketing resume because, and this lady, she's trying to break into Web3 because everyone knows who Grab is. They're kind of like Uber, and it's easy to read and it's easy to understand. But the mistakes that Rachel is making here, anyone can make it regardless of level. And I see them on senior resumes and tech resumes as much as the other. So I want you to imagine for a second, if you were a startup Web3 founder hiring for a Web3 growth role, would you want to keep reading about Rachel, or would you want to, would you want to bring her in for an interview with you to sit down, in a room for an hour, or would you want to just say no? Hands up if you want to interview Rachel. Okay, so let me tell you what I'm seeing from a recruiter perspective. Right, I think she's used AI for her resume. It's very nicely structured. She's got nice headlines, very nice and clean and easy to read. What I am seeing though, because we've been, Web3 has progressed along. Maybe in 2021, I would be interested because Grab is a company that has expanded and crossed a lot of different markets in a very short period of time. So that would help in my growth. But now in 2026, I want Web3 proof. I want, to know that I don't need to hold your hand to explain, what Web3 means, what blockchain means, what your different chains mean. All of that, I need to understand that I won't be starting with a blank piece of paper. Rachel is not showing that here. I've got a lot to say about this, but let's move on. Okay, so this is the same person, same experience. I haven't made anything up. She's not added a new role after her time at Grab, but the only thing that's changed is how she is positioning herself. So look at the summary, all right? She's not just a marketing professional seeking new opportunities now. She's a marketing strategist with a specific angle. So she's, community-led growth in Southeast Asia, and now she's applying these playbooks to Web3. And that's not the only thing that she's saying, because anyone can say that, right? Anyone can say they want to get into Web3. But she's also got Web3 signals and proof on this page. So she's not just a member of a DAO. She's led a 3-part onboarding for her DAO that's brought in 200 new members. So that's a difference from the last slide. She's got activities saying that she's in the community and also proof that says what she's built there. And she's also, notice another change that I made is that she's put numbers everywhere. So every line earns a spot. She's grown community from 80K to 340K. She has managed a 20-person regional ambassador program. She has a go-to-market that's generated 3.2 mil in pipeline. So all of this will get a hiring manager interested, because they show a hiring manager that picture that, hey, if she can do this at Grab, can she do this with me? So that's the picture that you need to draw. And it's not because Rachel changed who she is, it's because she got clear on her positioning and she let that drive everything on her resume. And so before you guys tell me, hey Doris, look, that sounds like a little bit like you're lying. You're not lying. All of this Rachel has done. It's deciding what matters and making sure what recruiters and hiring managers see first. So that's positioning. So your resume is important, yes. Your LinkedIn is also important. But all of those are just packaging. They're materials because they're just outputs. The thing is for Web3 job search is you need to ask yourself the questions that a lot of people skip. Is what are you positioning yourself as? What's your angle in Web3? What's a specific thing that you want to be known for? Because once you have the answer to that, your materials will write itself, right? Rachel didn't just fix her resume. She decided that she was a growth strategist moving into Web3. And then every line from her resume and all of that came afterwards. Let's talk about AI. This is almost kind of like a new playing field happening over in the last year. And it's the one that most people are anxious about and they're most likely to fumble over. So I was talking recently to Yusuf, who is the Chief Knowledge Officer at Animoca Brands. So everyone who knows him knows that he's very, very passionate about AI. So he was actually telling me that he has made it a point to ask every single person that walks into the room to interview with him how AI native they are. And that's not just in Animoca. You know, other Web3 companies like Polygon, Chainlink, they've also actually made it a point to put on their job descriptions that AI fluency is something that they are looking for right now, is actually a requirement, that this is something that is expected of their employees in their role, that they want someone that is AI native. So when people answer, you know, are you AI native? They tend to answer, yeah, you know, I use ChatGPT, I use, you know, some of the apps out there here and there, and it doesn't really say anything because it's almost kind of like you're saying that you use Google these days, right? When you use ChatGPT. And or some people just rattle off a list of tools that they use, you know, just to kind of leave it there. But that's not enough. So if I have a newsletter called The Career Edge, and if you subscribe to it, you know that I love saying, you know, showing how you should be actually answering these questions. So the one who answers it right gets two things. So first, they name the tools that actually show depth. It's not just ChatGPT. You need to name the ones that are specific on what they do. So if you're in BD, you should be saying, I use Apollo. If you're in marketing, you use, Mixpanel. If you're in ops, you use NAN or you use Make. So you should be able to know the tools past the obvious ones to show that you're ahead of most people. You can't just leave a list of tools and be like, yeah, I do it. I use those, because that's not it. You need to also show proof, right? Remember what I said just then? You need to also show that you can actually deliver. Now, you're saying something like, I built a workflow that does in 3 days what my whole entire team used to do in 3 weeks. That will show that, you know, everything. It's a tools showing your range and then the outcome showing what mattered. And you need both, because you need to have specifics and you need to have impact. And that is a full model answer. One last thing is I found really interesting that there's a number on this now, on the difference between an AI fluent employee and a non-AI fluent employee. So the 2026 Web3 Workforce Report recently found, so this came out a couple of months ago, mid-level roles that need AI proficiency, they pay a median of 115K compared to those roles that don't list out that they need AI fluency. Those roles pay about 95K. So that's a 20K difference. So if you are AI fluent, you can negotiate for a higher salary. And interestingly enough, the same report says that 6 in 10 workers say they got a higher pay because of their AI skills. So, you know, whatever camp you're in, whether you're breaking into the space or whether you're already in it for a couple of years, I'd really get my hands started on being AI fluent right now, because, you know, the gap between people who say they're AI native and those is actually still quite big. And if you can really get ahead of the curve, then that's going to be your edge. Thank you for all listening to me. So some of you guys are going to go home and maybe think about, oh, maybe I should change a couple of lines in my LinkedIn or my resume. That's good. That's a start. But a full positioning isn't going to happen by just changing a couple of lines. Like I mentioned just then, I have a free Career Edge newsletter. So that goes out every week, and I talk about what's happening in the Web3 job market. I talk about what that would mean for job seekers. I also share job drops. I keep an eye on the Web3 market, so anything that's interesting that comes up that is new that week, I post there. And also, if you want something a little bit more substantial than that, I also do offer a free career diagnosis call. So that is a call with me, human, sitting down, one-to-one, 20 minutes, and I give you honest feedback on your materials, on, you know, how you're going, how I feel like, you know, the job search is going from a recruiter point of view. So that's something that some people might be interested in. Thanks.
So last but not least, let's welcome Hema to the stage. So Hema is a seasoned project leader with over 30 years of experience navigating complex tech shifts across industries like education, finance, and fine arts. But Hema is also a life coach who will lead a session on coaching the hidden career bottleneck, what you show up as versus how you are seen.
Thank you. So we have heard lots of tools, right? External tools. We have a recruitment agent, we have a nice resume tips. But one question I want to ask you that no recruiter will ask you. What do you want to become? Like, you will get a good paycheck, right? Best job, best title. But if you don't know what you want, that would be something still missing. And that's what we are going to explore together today. So you got with this all the nice resume tips, you got the best job. And have you ever felt that you realize that how much I work hard, but I'm not being satisfied, right? I'm achieving so much, but at the end of the day, I'm not feeling fulfilled. Something is missing. You have like posts on the LinkedIn, you on social media, but you don't feel seen by others. So it's like, like going on the treadmill. You are just running, but you don't know what are you chasing. You are successful on the paper, but it's not that. What is that? Has anybody felt that? We all realize it, but we don't name it. It's so common. And then what we do, we just blame our managers. We blame our organizations, culture, right? Let me share a story. Let me share my career journey. I've been working in the different countries as a different roles. Started from IT, technology, programmer, business analyst, consultant. Started with a .com as a similar to now AI bubble. I work in a .com, which was also very like a startup bubble. Started in 8 months and ended like 1 year. So that was right. But every time in over last so many years, I always felt that I've been not seen, don't feel valued, been running, waiting for acknowledgement and waiting for the external validation. But one thing I still remember in last week, that was I worked for Crown for 15 years. After 8 years, I had a new manager. I was just a new mom that time. So I had actually adjusted as a part-time working with them, regular living at 4 p.m. And this new manager, after one of our meeting, he said, she's leaving early. She's a mom. I was so upset. That comment stayed with me. You know what I heard that time in his voice? I'm not serious. I'm not committed. I'm just a mom. But with now wearing a coaching hat, I asked myself a different question. What was I trying to show him as? Was I trying to do as really a mom, or was I professional? So I worked for 30 years. I left my job a year back and I was not sure what I want to do. I heard about coaching, but I had never experienced it. But I knew one thing, I need to see things differently. I didn't know what I want to be. That question I had never asked myself. And then coaching actually taught me that. Coaching gave me that space, self-reflection, is what do I really want to be? So I wish that the question earlier I would have asked myself, what do I want to become? Because all the time I was always asking, what are people thinking about me? I'm trying to prove myself, right? I was always working towards my title. Oh, do I really belong here? What are people thinking about me? Am I really worth what I'm doing it? I never asked myself, what do I want to become? And what should I do to become that person? I was always looking for the external validation, approval from my managers, right? Making them wrong their bias. So I work so many years doing coaching for the people. We've seen that we don't lack skills. We have lots of skills. We are resilient, right? But we are always looking for that from the outside world. We don't know what we want, right? What do you want to become? If you have that internal clarity, then you know what type of job you want. And once you have that job, what do you want to show as? How do you want people to experience you as? And that's very important. So I want to invite all of you on, take 1 minute today, now, right? Reflect on these 2 questions. What is one obstacle in your career right now? Not what you want to tell your manager, but what you really feel. And the second one is, what do you want to become? Not that title, not that salary, or not that big organization, but what do you want to actually show as? What do you want people to experience you? You take 1 minute, I'll just wait here. And I would suggest continue doing this even after our event ends, because that's important for you, right? I wish I had asked these questions when my manager commented on that time, right? I would have actually that time, now being honest, I feel that time, what was I showing up as? I was showing up as anxious mom trying to prove my worth. But now, if I would have actually showed up as a professional who delivers all the work with her best, then that 4 p.m. wouldn't have counted. The hours he wouldn't even have noticed, right? So it's up to and how you actually show up as. So tonight, another homework. Not a big commitment, it's just a one small behavior change. How do you want to be seen as? Just write 3 words. And then, how am I actually showing up today? And with that, what is one small behavior would you like to change? Be specific, right? So you can actually do that change. Because clarity without action is a nice thought, but action without clarity is burnout. You need both. So we got all the lots of external tools which are very valuable. Janet had the mind agent. We had the resume tips. That's very valuable. You need that, right? But remember this, that you have the potential what you want to become, right? Don't go after how. How will come automatically the moment you know what. Right? Don't think about how do I get promoted. Say what do you want to become. Right? Don't go over how do I prove them wrong, but say what I want them to experience me. Because what you want is only you know clarity within you. Thank you.
Thank you again to Janet, Chloe, and the Animoca Brands team for having us today. I think we can, move ahead to the networking part. Please enjoy the light refreshments and see you next.